Now, your inner guidance system will always warn you when your thoughts are focused in the wrong direction, because your inner guidance system knows, and here's the first card, whatever you give your attention to will increase. Or in other words, whatever you focus your thoughts upon, you will magnetize into your experience. So, when you have a negative feeling, your inner guidance system is telling you, you have encountered a wrong way sign. So what do you do when you have a wrong way sign? You think of that negative feeling as a point of power. So what do you do when you have a point of power? You think of the Spice Girls, and they had a song, "Tell me what you want, what you really, really want." Because when you know what you don't want, you can more easily determine what it is that you do want. And then you employ your powerful thoughts and the law of attraction to create that reality instead. Your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, words, and actions act as boomerangs, attracting evidence of those thoughts, feelings, beliefs, words, and actions right back to you, thereby creating your life experience. In other words, what you sow with your dominant thoughts, you're going to reap in your life experience. William James tells us, of all the creatures of earth, only human beings can change their pattern. Man alone is the architect of his destiny. The greatest revolution in our generation is that of human beings, by changing the inner attitudes of their minds, can change the outer aspects of their lives. And Van Gogh tells us, I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It is my daily mood that makes the weather. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. It is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a person is humanized or dehumanized. Napoleon Hill tells us, man alone has the power to transform his thoughts into physical reality. Man alone can dream and make his dreams come true. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And even cabal-owned Sony, Standard Oil of New York, which is owned by the Rockefellers, has in its advertising, believe that anything you can imagine, you can make real. And in the latest episode of Star Wars, what are they telling us? The Force awakens. It's exactly what's happening right now. The Force is awakening. I was watching TV one day, and I had on a show, Codes and Conspiracies, and it was a program on Freemasons. And I was totally astonished because 33-degree Freemason Akram Elias actually revealed the mission of the Freemasons. And this is what he had to say. The mission of the Freemasons is to spread the light as the world becomes increasingly more interconnected. Some have said that the Freemasons are a secret group of Jedi Knights fighting for the light, seeking to teach individuals to use the Force for themselves and to connect with something greater than themselves. Darkness needs to be fought because darkness takes away everything that makes a human being unique in this universe. Found that very interesting. So, how can we utilize the Force to resolve the crises we are now facing and move into the next stage of evolution? By being the 100th monkey. So what is this 100th monkey effect? Well, when a certain percentage of the species begins to utilize a new behavior or obtains new information, the collective consciousness of that species is downloaded with this new information. Now, this was seen in the 1950s when Japanese scientists chose to research the problem-solving ability of monkeys. Now, they gave the monkeys a problem. They gave the monkeys sweet potatoes, which is something the monkeys just love. But before they gave them to them, they dropped them in the sand. So month after month, the monkeys would sit there and painstakingly take the sand off until one day, a little monkey took her sweet potato to the water and she washed it. She found the sand came off. Now, one by one, her peers began to emulate her behavior until the 100th monkey began to copy this behavior. Now, the 100th monkey is basically an arbitrary number. It indicates that we have achieved mass consciousness or critical thinking. So when this happened, a miracle happened, or something we would consider a miracle. Because not only did the monkeys on this island in Japan begin to wash their sweet potatoes, but so too did other monkeys on the other islands of Japan. And they had no way of contacting one another. So this is very interesting. The scientists were like baffled. Could this apply to human beings? They conducted an experiment. Phase 1 began in Australia. Took 150 people and they showed them an image very similar to this. This is an image of Walt Disney, but this image is composed of tiny little faces. But they didn't tell the people that. They just said, we want you to look at this photograph and tell us what you see. Well, 90% of the people didn't see anything. Phase 2 took place in London. The BBC aired a program that essentially showed the photograph to the audience. They let the cat out of the bag and they said, see this image? It's composed of tiny little faces. Phase 3 of the experiment, back to Australia, polling another 150 people, and guess what happened? Over 90% of the people now saw the faces. These findings intrigued scientists all over the world, which included the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, or PAIR, the Institute of Noetic Science, and the Institute of Heart Math. Now, in the 1970s, Princeton professor Robert Jahn was curious to see if human thought could actually affect a random number generator. And this is a small device that utilizes a simple computer program that produces an equal number of ones and zeros in random sequences. Now, he allegedly pulled students off the street and said, I just want you to focus on this random number generator and try to skew the results. Well, guess what happened? They skewed the results on this pre-programmed device. So, one of Professor Jahn's colleagues, Dr. Roger Nelson, attended a conference in Vienna, Austria in 1998 where he shared these findings, which spawned the Global Consciousness Project. 40 generators were installed at laboratories all over the world, which created a network called the electrogaiagram. 24 hours a day, the generators did as they were programmed. However, when a great number of people focused on a singular event, the generators reported a deviation. And this was seen when over 1 billion people watched the funeral services of the beloved Princess Diana. It was also seen in the O.J. Simpson trial, the Asian tsunami, the Winter Olympics in Japan, Hurricane Katrina, the NATO bombings of Yugoslavia, as well as New Year's Eve celebrations. But an unparalleled increase in deviations was seen when people all over the globe focused in horror on the tragedies of September 11th, 2001. And here's a graph that is actually showing the data that came from the generators at that time. But not only did the random number generators report this deviation, 2 national weather satellites also detected a powerful spike in global magnetism, as well as a surge in Earth's magnetic field that reached nearly 50 units higher than any data previously reported. These results results demonstrate that focused mass consciousness affects physical reality, which begs the question, can this power be harnessed for good? And the folks at the Institute of Heart Math in California decided to find out. They established the Global Coherence Project with the goal of utilizing collective thought to avert or mitigate potentially catastrophic events and to create peace on Earth. And this is how it works. If you were to join the Global Coherence Project, you would be notified by Heart Math when there was a potentially catastrophic event that was about to happen. Now they would instruct you to go to find a place of privacy, could be a bathroom stall, and to attain what they refer to as coherence, which is kind of achieving a meditative state. And then they would tell you to visualize the intended result. Now they utilized this in 2011. The media had reported that Hurricane Irene was going to hit the east coast of America with devastating effects. HeartMath then contacted its membership and employed the power of mass consciousness to mitigate this disaster. And guess what happened? The damage caused by this hurricane was far less severe than what had been predicted. According to the Ocean City, New Jersey police chief, we really dodged a huge bullet, and residents were pleasantly surprised that Irene had not been worse. The bottom line, the power of consciousness, the power of thought works. And additional evidence of the power of thought was seen in the laboratories of Dr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese professor. Now, Dr. Emoto instructed his students to focus various thoughts onto beakers of water before the water was flash frozen. Now, after the water froze, the students then studied this crystalline structure of the water, and this is what appeared. The top row here indicates the negative thoughts. Heavy metal music, you will make me sick, I will kill you, Adolf Hitler. Now, as you can see, the molecular crystalline structure of these molecules were kind of distorted. They're kind of ugly. Whereas, thank you, love and appreciation, the positive thoughts all created these beautiful snowflake-like crystalline structures in the molecules. You can see here the power of their thoughts affected physical reality in a very real way. Dr. Herbert Benson is a doctor that founded the Harvard Mind-Body Clinic, and he wrote a book called Timeless Healing: The Power and Biology of Belief. Dr. Benson tells us we are without a doubt at a turning point in the history of utilizing belief in healing. As medical researchers, we expect some exceptions and anomalies from our statistics, but finding that patients who consistently follow doctors' orders, believing that doing so would make them well, were twice as likely to live, is sobering. In 1937, Nobel Prize winner Albert St. George tells us that mind-body energy healing is not at all unusual. He says in every culture and in every medical tradition before ours, healing was accomplished by moving energy. Just as Uncle Laszlo and his family were cured of their ailments by simply taking lifesavers, we are now beginning to learn that it is not the medicinal properties in drugs that produce cures, but the beliefs that we, our doctors, or the original researcher holds about that medicine, which results in a healing or a lack of healing. The miraculous pill we were waiting for science to deliver, the panacea that would eliminate illness, is not coming from science. For that pill exists within each of us. At the conclusion of The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy believes that she will never be able to return to her loved ones back in Kansas. In this agonizing moment, Glinda, the Good Witch, appears. And Dorothy says, "Oh, Glinda, can you please help me get back to Kansas?" And Glinda replies, "You don't need to be helped any longer. You always had the power to go back to Kansas. It was inside you." Well, the Scarecrow then said, "Well, why didn't you tell her then?" Glinda said, "She would not have believed me. She had to learn it for herself." Just as you and I have to learn our lessons before we can progress into our next stage of evolution.